Oh, howdy all, grab yourselves a beer, it is time for some Path of Exile discussion. Today I'm going to conclude a series I've been doing on the challenges for the Heist League. So in this I'm going to be discussing the challenges you probably only want to do if your goal is either to hit 36 challenges or 40 challenges in this league. If you're looking at getting 24, I've got a guide for 24, and that covers the 11 challenges I feel are in the middle, difficulty-wise. If you're looking for getting 12, I've got another guide in this series that covers the 18 challenges I consider the easiest, because there wasn't a clear breaking point between like an easiest 12 and a middle 12 like there usually is. So 18 easiest in the first guide, 11 in the middle in the second guide. This guide's going to look at the 11 hardest challenges. Lastly, there's a spreadsheet that you'll see here, heistchallenges.ods. This is available to download from my blog. So, alternate quality experiments is the first one that makes it into the hardest 11. This has 4 parts, 2 of which are trivial, 1 of which is reasonable, and 1 of which is an RNG nightmare. So, the ones that are trivial, equip a gem with alt quality and level one of them to 20. Leveling a gem to 20 is going to take about 150 maps, and equipping a gem with an alternate quality is just as simple as looting one from a grand heist and then finding a spot on your weapon swap to put it into. So that's very easy to do, the first 2. For the 4th one, this requires a little bit of messing around. There's no real getting around this. If you're in solo self-found and you want to achieve this, you pretty much need to loot an enhanced gem. Enhance is one of the special 3 support gems that can't be bought from vendors. There's Empower, which adds levels to gems. There's Enlighten, which gives a mana multiplier and is mostly used on auras. And there is Enhance, which increases quality. If you have an Enhance that is level 4, which is easy to source in a trade league, mine cost me about 2 exalts when I bought it quite some time ago, then all you need to do is just grab any item and socket an alternate quality gem that's at least 16 quality, link to the Enhance. Done. That'll take you up to 40. If on the other hand you have only an Enhance 3 available to you, and here I'm mostly talking to solo self-found players because finding 8 copies of Enhance and leveling them all is no small feat in solo self-found. If you only have an Enhance 3, you can still get there by socketing both the alternate quality gem at least 16 quality and the Enhanced support level 3 into either a piece of Elder armor that has the suffix socketed gems, prefix socketed support gems have +1 level, or any piece of armor that has the Vaal implicit, all socketed gems have +1 level. Both those are available on armor pieces, and so that's an option for there. There's a bunch of other ways you can do it as well that involve a bench craft that is related to Haku from the Betrayal system. So if you've been doing lots of unveiling, then you may have that Haku craft. So there's lots of ways that you can do it, but whatever you're doing, you are going to need an Enhanced support gem. And leveling that to 3, whilst it takes some time, it's not the biggest thing in the world if you're going for 36 challenges. Finally, though, we have the Mongrel, and that is corrupt a gem with alternate quality into a level 21 gem. There are 2 ways you can do this, and both of them are RNG driven. The first one, and the one you'll get less chances at, is to use a lapidary lens. The lapidary lens is in Elva's Incursion Temple, and it's the tier 3 gem rune. It has a 25% chance when used on a level 20 gem of upgrading that gem to level 21. It also has other effects, but that's a 25% chance to achieve this goal. The other way of doing it is to have a level 20 alternate quality gem and Vaal it, and then this will give you a 1 in 8 chance from a Vaal orb. So, what you're looking at on average, let's assume you never get the lapidary lens or that you choose to use it on other gems like awakened support gems. So let's say that you don't ever get the lapidary lens. On average, you're going to need to buy 8 alternate quality gems that are level 20 or 8 low level ones and level them up to 20. Now that's fine if you're in a trade league. This is going to cost you an average of about 240 Chaos Orbs, which, whilst it's no laughing matter for a person that's going for 24 challenges, for someone going for 36 really is a triviality. However, For solo self-found players, it's a little bit worse. And additionally, just because something is a 1 in 8 chance does not mean it will happen for you by the 8th attempt. In fact, fully 30% of players will not get, 37% of players will not get this from 8 attempts. Approximately 14% of you won't get it from 16 attempts. And approximately 2% of you won't get it from 32 attempts. And it's for that reason that I've put this solidly into the only go for this if you're going for level 36 category. On the flip side though, this has created quite a market for level 20 alternate quality gems. If you're someone that is looking to exploit this in the trade leagues, just pick up some really unpopular alternate quality gems. There's lots of them coming out of Grand Heists every day of the league, and level them up in your offhand weapon swap slots. And when they're level 20, sell them to people that are chasing this alternate quality experiments achievement, and they will be quite happy to reward you for doing so. Okay, so that's alternate quality experiments. That's going to be one of the nastier, but not the absolutely awful ones that you're going to need. Next up, we have Complete Heist Encounters 4, and this one is at the much nastier end. This one is one that you may well decide to forego. If your goal is to get 36 challenges, this is one that you may wish to consider skipping. So firstly, you're going to need the straightforward part of the grind here. Complete contracts, 250, and complete Grand Heist, 25. This is all fine. There's nothing unreasonable in this section at all. Everything here you will be able to do fine. The hard part is actually down below. Reveal rooms. When you talk to Wakano, he will enable you to reveal rooms. You will get 1 blueprint unveil each time you successfully complete a heist. If the NPC that you used for your heist was anyone other than Niles or Gianna, Wakano will give you that reveal. Wakano charges full price in Rogue's markers. If it was Niles will give you the reveal and you'll get 10% off. If it was Gianna will give you the reveal and you'll get 40% off. And I think it's less than 40% until when Gianna's less than level 5 in her disguise skill. The big cost here is the staggering amount of coins, rogue markers. It's going to cost you to reveal 300 rooms and 60 wings. Now, there's a partial way around this, and the way around this is to actively farm low-tier blueprints. So you're going to want to find blueprints that drop in the storyline content or in shallow delves. Monster level 50 or so is ideal. Get these blueprints and unveil all the wings and all the reward rooms on them. This will cost you less. However, you will still need the unveil point, which you get from completing a heist. So ultimately, in order to complete this, you are going to need to complete 360 heists, and you are going to need to have a massive amount of rogues markers. Wings will generally cost you about 3,000 to 4,000 each, so that's going to be about 200,000 rogue markers to get this part. Rooms vary a lot with the zone level. Rooms cost about 1,000 rogue markers at monster level 83, and so if you're doing all of this at level 83, you're probably going to need 500,000 rogue markers, which I don't expect I will loot that many over the entire league. But if you're looking at doing it at lower level blueprints, as I'm suggesting, then you won't need anywhere near that number of coins. In any case, this one's grindy. This one's grindy, and the reason it's grindy is that you need so many rogue markers. The last tip I'm going to include is something that is Trade League exclusive. And what this tip is that if you're looking to get a lot of rogue markers, buy contracts from other players that have the priceless rewards on them. Then try to find a group of players that are willing to run all of these contracts together. And maybe you'll have some sort of deal whereby they give you 30% of the coins that they loot or something like that. This will be a fantastic deal for them as well. They're getting every single priceless reward is worth about 5,000 rogue markers. So if you can run one of these one of these contracts, and everyone else agrees to give you 30% of the coins that they sell it for, they're getting 3,500 coins, so they're going to be pretty happy with the deal. Whereas you are getting 12,500 coins for your one priceless contract. So that's an option, and certainly something that's Trade League exclusive but can work. Alternately, you can even set up a rotation where each player contributes 5 priceless contracts, or even go one below priceless. You can go for precious if priceless contracts get a bit too hard to source, and have each of you run 5 precious contracts back to back to back. All of you will get a copy of the artifact, and you'll be able to sell them all to Faustus for full rewards. Okay, so that's Heist Contracts. That's Heist Encounters 4. Now we're on to Atlas. Okay, Explore the Atlas. This one's pretty straightforward if you're familiar with the Atlas. Essentially, you need to beat almost every map on it in the 4 Watchstone version, and you pretty much need to do it again after you've got all your Watchstones. So essentially, you'll need to get your 32 Watchstones, which will take most players about 350 to 500 maps. And then after that, you're going to need to run pretty much everything on the Atlas once each. There's enough space for you to leave out really difficult maps, so you don't need Hall of the Grandmasters. You don't need to go back into Vaal Temple to get the Awakener's bonus. You can skip over nasty maps. You can skip Pillars of Arun on 4 Watchstones. Is a really nasty map. You can skip all of these maps if you want to, but you will need to do a large majority of them. Ultimately, this one just comes down to playing the game. It's a bit of a grind, but rather than being a repetition-based grind, it's a variety-based grind. Just do every map once each. As a side effect, doing this will pretty much completely unlock the favored map system for you, which is really useful because there's a lot you can do with the favored map system, such as prioritizing tropical islands to drop, which will help with delirium splinters, prioritizing burial chambers to drop if you want to try and farm a headhunter that way, or things along those lines. So there's lots of side benefits of exploring the Atlas as well. Okay, next up we have complete unique contracts. Now, this one's interesting in that these unique contracts are not particularly common at all, but they're also not as rare as the Path of Exile subreddit would make out. Essentially, you will find these while you are mapping. You will also sometimes find them in heists and grand heists, and they will only drop in very high tier maps. When you get them, you'll be able to run them all and get yourself credit for this one. This is more of a nasty one if you're in solo self-found, where you might be in a situation where, let's say, Death to Darnor, it might be one in 450 maps for that to drop. And I'm just taking a guess at that. That just feels about right, judging by the number of them that are available on trade and the like. So 1 in 450 maps is not common, but it's also not staggeringly rare. However, again, we've got that situation, just like with the leveling alternate quality gems and then valing them, that there will be a 2% of the population of the game will not hit that event when they've done 4 times that number. So if it is 1 in 450, 2% of players won't have it after 1800 high tier maps. And that can create a feel bad moment in solo self-found. But ultimately, solo self-found is a voluntary hard mode, and it is about RNG dominating the game. So that's, if you find yourself in a situation where you really want this and you're in solo self-found and it just will not drop, then consider right at the end, once you've finished all your other league objectives, migrating to the trade league and essentially buying it that way. Defeat the twins. The twins are the hardest of the unique contracts by far, and they're also, although they're not all that difficult to fight, and they're also the rarest of the unique contracts. Again, this is very similar to complete unique contracts, except that this is something that there's a lot more people who will pull together their resources to buy a copy of this contract in Trade League, and then will sell portals to it. There is another linked challenge that links to the twins, and we'll see that at the end, which is the Defeat the Twins Conditionally. Complete Encounters 5. Here we have a precision boss kill 1. So, defeat the Hallowed Husk in Palace map after it's cast Blood Rain at least 3 times and without having stood in the proximity shield bubble. This is all about anti-bleed flasks. So, the Hallowed Husk is the bottom half of Dominus. You have the top half of Dominus, like the actual Dominus the man fight. Then once you've beaten that, then you have the Hallowed Husk, which is the remains, the monster that was within Dominus. Blood Rain is his ability that causes a stacking bleed to be inflicted on players. This bleed isn't particularly dangerous, but it will eat away at you over time. What you would normally do in the Dominus fight is run into the massive thing that looks like a proximity shield, and that causes the bleeding to fall off. That gives you immunity to bleed effects while you're inside it. However, you can't do that for this fight. You need to have some other immunity to blood rain. And ultimately, the easiest thing to do here is simply to use a flask that has a duration and to endure a small amount of damage from the bleed, but basically to bypass the majority of it by prolonging the fight. Firstly, you need to prolong the fight so that he casts blood rain 3 times. And secondly, you need to stand out of the proximity shield bubble the whole time and use your flasks to stay alive. This isn't a hard fight, and it's not made particularly hard by this condition. Next, we have defeat the trio of bosses in Vaal Temple by killing Kaj Ayalai last. This, on the other hand, is hard. So, the solution to how to do this, every time that there is a boss that is too dangerous to interact with normally, the solution is almost always Decoy Totem. And that is indeed the solution to how you beat Complete Encounters 5. Kaj Ayalai, if you're not familiar with the Vaal Temple fight, and I do have a video guide to the Vaal Temple fight, which I will put a link to in the last 20 seconds of this video. So Kaj Ayalai is the one that fires projectiles at you and that has something akin to old Firestorm, except it does physical damage. Her Firestorm variant skill does staggering damage, and it hits the ground every 0.9 seconds. One of the things that makes this so scary is that the first hit tends to stun you, the second hit chunks at your life, and then the third hit kills you. But because the first hit has stunned you, you're not able to really react in time to get out of it, and it is just that fast. The trick here is that you want Kaj Ayalai to cast her physical Firestorm skill targeting your Decoy Totem, not you, and you want to be standing somewhere very, very different. So, what did I do for this fight? Firstly, I vended 5 copies of Vaal Temple map, 5 rare ones, corrupt rare ones, and then I received a craftable Vaal Temple back. At this point, I then scoured it, and then I ran the Vaal Temple scoured. That's optional, but it did make it a lot easier. Then I got the other 2 bosses down, and made sure that Kaj Ayalai was not near them by placing the Decoy Totem vaguely near Kaj Ayalai so that she aggroed on it, but it didn't have enough range to hit the other 2. So I then killed the other 2 as you would normally do. Then at that point, I maintained a long distance and just blew Kaj Ayalai up. That's how I did it, and it's the strategy that I would suggest. If you're playing a character that deals melee damage in point blank range, then I would strongly suggest respecking for this fight. This one's going to be an absolute nightmare. Alternately, you can pray that your Vaal double strike boys can take Kaj Ayalai out with 1 cast after she's enraged, because you do not want to be in a situation where Kaj Ayalai is aggroed on a Decoy Totem and is at point blank range to it herself, and you're behind her and you're hitting it, and then she casts her enraged version of Physical Firestorm afterwards. If that happens, you're dead. Defeat Orlan Greychain in Fungal Hollow map while both you and him are affected by Immortal Call. Okay, so here you're going to want to be casting Immortal Call, and you're going to want to be extending its duration somehow. And then you're also just going to want to time your kill. Like all of these that require timing a kill, the best way to time a kill is to use Culling Strike support on a skill that you don't normally use. So for instance, if you normally use Flame Dash as your movement skill linked to Second Wind, then maybe you want to change Flame Dash to be linked to Culling Strike for this fight. Then, using whatever your normal skills are, get Orlan Greychain down under 10%, and wait until you see him cast Immortal Call. It has a really, really noticeable graphic and a really noticeable sound. The sound's even more so. Then, cast your own Immortal Call and Flame Dash on top of him. Your Flame Dash will hit him, because most people think of Flame Dash as just a teleport and a move and a fiery ground that's left behind, but it does actually deal damage as a hit as well. So your Flame Dash will then cull him, and that will kill him instantly. He will have been affected by Immortal Call at the time, and you will have been affected as well. That's what I think is the easiest way to do this fight. However, there are other ways. Another way you could do is simply linking cast when damage taken to Immortal Call, and also link an increased duration. Then, go and do this fight a bunch of times, and eventually it's just going to happen by dumb luck. The one thing I will say that's going to be nasty on this is that Immortal Call does seriously reduce the amount of damage that All and Grey Chain takes from you. It doesn't reduce it to 0 like it once did, but it will reduce the damages taken, and therefore you are less likely to kill him during the period that the Immortal Call is active. If your character is capable of dealing chaos damage, so you're not using a setup like Pride and Brutality support and the like, and scaling physical damage like a lot of Impale builds, if you're capable of dealing chaos damage, then you might want to throw in Atziri's Promise for this fight. Even if you normally use some other flask, like let's say your normal flask is Bottled Faith, maybe you just want to swap Bottled Faith out for Atziri's Promise for this fight, and that can potentially help you with damaging him through his Immortal Call. Defeat Chaeola Who Dreamt without being hit by Chaos Cyclone projectiles, and after it's used Chaos Cyclone at least 3 times. This is precision dodging. This has been bugged for a long time though, and essentially all you need to do, at least at the time of recording, I can't guarantee this will still be the case later, all you need to do is kill Chaeola after they've used Chaos Cyclone 3 times. Getting hit by Chaos Cyclone projectiles doesn't seem to matter at the moment. I'm going to work to the assumption that that's going to be fixed, and the way to do this is, again, to use Decoy Totem, and to stand behind your Decoy Totem where possible, and to use a teleport move skill so that Chaeola's Cyclone projectiles don't hit you. Essentially, all of the same sorts of tricks that you might use to dodge Bullet Hell from Innocence, or from the Basilica boss, all of those sorts of abilities you can use here. The key being that you want to have Chaeola aggroed on something else other than you, if at all possible, hence Decoy Totem, and you want to have precision teleport movement. Okay, so that's one of the more complex ones. Now one of the most simple, Heist Map Grind. Run 1,000 Chisel Elked maps, and you've more than got this. More than got this. Alternately, there are unique maps that have much higher levels of quantity than normal maps, so that will help you get there as well. One popular thing is to run rotations. One of the unique maps, I can't remember whether it's Acton's Nightmare or Olmec's Sanctum or one of the others, one of the really common ones has something like 175% increased item quantity, so you can run that in a rotation. Basically what you do here is you purchase 10 of them, you find a few other people that are willing to purchase 10 of the same map as well, and then all of you just back to back to back to back to back, you run my 10, then your 10, then your 10, then your 10, then your 10, and suddenly, given that the map only takes about 1.5 minutes to do, 90 minutes later, you've made 10,000 or more points of progress on that. Next up, we have defeat heist bosses conditionally. This one really requires experience with all of the fights. Essentially, my advice here is going to be to run these fights without trying to do the conditional mod, and learn exactly what to dodge. So for the Unbreakable, Magnetic Storm is the sort of spiraling storm, but generally the easiest way to do these encounters is simply to burn the boss down incredibly fast. So just respec your build for maximum damage at the expense of survivability, and then these will become much, much, much easier because there's less time to make a mistake. Obviously, that's something that's a bit harder to do in hardcore than in softcore, but I think all of these are very doable. None of them are particularly mean. Defeat the twins conditionally. The thing that causes the twins to swap positions, this is the one people get stuck on this. The thing that causes them to swap positions is when their health pools are very, very different to each other. So what you're going to want to do is don't let them stay with a more than 10% difference in their health pools for more than a couple of seconds. So if you've been focusing your damage on Vic, then you're going to need to switch to Vinny very quickly. If you've been focusing on Vinny, you're going to need to switch to Vic and keep them within about 10% life of each other. So when you've gotten Vic down to 90, then it's time to work on Vinny, get Vinny down to 80, then jump over to Vic again, get Vic down to 70, and so on. Alternately, you can trivialize these conditions by simply burning them down in seconds. And then you'll be able to get through this really easily. There are a number of people selling services in the global trade channel Trade 820, where for about the sum of 5 exalts, they will provide a twins map and they will do all of these for you. That's often the easiest way to get this for a lot of players, and don't feel ashamed if you end up having to do it that way. Next up we have Deadly Encounters. So none of the, well, actually 3 of these are relatively accessible, 3 of them are not. So the Shaper is the easiest of the bosses here to access and the easiest to beat by far. I have a guide to the Shaper. I will also link it in the last 20 seconds of this video, and definitely a fight that's worth learning. It's very lucrative in weeks 1 and 2 of a new league as well. If you've never gotten to the Shaper early, highly recommend that the next trade league you play in, try to get to the Shaper in week 1 or 2 if you can. Buy the fragments from other players and butcher the Shaper, and you will get a lot of loot for your time. Feral First of the Plains is RNG based to get, but he is quite a bit more common than some of the others that come later, and I think most people will end up doing Feral. Feral is also a very easy fight. Feral deals a fair amount of chaos damage, but... oh, sorry, no, it's Venomous that deals the chaos damage. Feral deals a fair amount of physical damage, but nothing unmanageable, and he really just does not have a high health pool, so it's just a case of burning him down. All the Crystal King is the hardest fight here. All is the hardest fight in the entire game, and he is very, very, very rare in the Delve Mines until you reach about depth 600. After 600 he becomes uncommon, and after about 1500 he becomes fairly common. However, at 1500, any single hit that all lands on your character is going to kill you. Guy's an absolute wrecking machine, so don't treat this fight lightly at all. All is the one that I think most of you are going to want to skip. I Templar Venerius in the Cortex. The Cortex unique map can be sourced in 3 different ways. The first one is from a lucky drop when you complete a map at tier 14 to 16 and above. The second way is for Zana to sell it to you from the list of maps that she sells on her daily missions. Whenever you initiate a Zana daily mission, her inventory will refresh, and if you've got more than, I believe, 120 Atlas bonus at the time, she'll be able to sell pretty much every unique map in the game, and one of those is the Cortex. If she does sell it, always buy it. It only costs 10 chaos when it's available that way, and it's if you're in a trade league, it'll sell for much more. The third way that you can get it is from Zana offering it to you as a mission. This will only happen in tier 14, 15, and 16 maps where you have a Zana mission. In fact, I can't confirm 14 personally. I know it happens in 15 and 16. I believe it happens in 14, but I can't personally confirm that. And it's a pretty rare occurrence again, just like a selling one. But the fact that the Cortex is rare is the reason that the map is worth something. You know, when it does drop, it's not the reason that it's not another Maelstrom of Chaos. It's something that is rare, and therefore there's more demand for it than there is supply, which tends to make it more valuable. In any case, the Cortex fight is no joke. I would suggest that you look for a guide on this. Unfortunately, I don't have one for the Cortex, but you will find them online. I wouldn't try the Cortex unless you're comfortable with the Uber Elder fight. And even then, you can expect that you might fail your first Cortex. I know that my first Cortex was after I'd beaten Uber Elder, and I did fail it completely. The other thing that helps with the Cortex is that it is a boss that has that is a lot easier if your damage output is higher. I've been saying this about a few of the encounters, that if you can glass cannon them, you can really, really make short work of them, and the Cortex is definitely like that. The faster you kill Venarius, the less time, Venarius has 4 constructs in the Cortex, the less time there is for any of them to do anything meaningful to you. Next up we have Uber Elder. Uber Elder is the Shaper and the Elder at the same time. Again, I have a guide for this. I can only put 2 specific videos in at the end, so I won't put a link to the Uber Elder guide, but I believe I have linked it from the Shaper guide, so you'll be able to find that one. In order to get access to the Uber Elder encounter, you will need to fight the Elder twice, or on average 3 times actually, in order to get 2 fragments that he drops, and you'll need to beat the Shaper at least twice, and on average 3 times, in order to get 1 of each of the fragments that he drops. So the Fragment of Shape, Fragment of Knowledge, Fragment of Emptiness, Fragment of Terror, when put in the map device together, will open portals to Uber Elder. Uber Elder is much harder than the Shaper, but is easier than the Cortex or All, and is much harder than Farrell or the Mastermind. The Uber Elder fight is chaotic, and there's a lot going on. As I say, it's its own guide, but it is a lot of fun, and I highly recommend, if you've never mastered this fight before, take this as your opportunity to go and give it a real shot, because it is an absolute blast. Lastly, you might get really lucky, you might get a Watcher's Eye, and then it's up to you whether you want to identify it for the chance of getting a multiple mirror Watcher's Eye, or sell it unidentified and get several exalts for it. Lastly, there's Syndicate Mastermind at an area level of 83. Be warned, doing the Syndicate Mastermind will ruin your entire Betrayal board. I highly recommend that you do this once you've got 35 or 39 challenges, whichever you're going for, then and only then do the Mastermind, get it out of the way, and then quit the league. This should be the last thing you do in the entire league, because the opportunity cost of ruining your entire Betrayal organizational chart is really high. And then lastly, we've got the very straightforward Endgame Grinds. Open chest at the end of the Endgame Labyrinth, skip this one. This one is horrible, horrible, horrible. It takes forever. Then basically you can choose any 5 of the others. I believe that the most reasonable combination to do is to skip the complete heist or grand heist at level as 68 or higher. Normally I would say skip level 100, but in this league there's a lot more XP than usual. Heists and grand heists give phenomenal XP if you set off the alarm, then run to the exit killing everything, run back in killing everything to the objective, then run back to the exit once more. You'll get absolutely phenomenal XP doing that, and you'll be able to get level 100 without needing to resort to expensive breachstone rotations. Syndicate safe houses will take a while of engaging with the Betrayal system, but it will fund lots of other endeavors that you might have during the league. Breach domains are really easy to get your hands on, and then you can do the factions at the Domain of Timeless Conflict, which is one that's going to take you a little bit of resources to get, because you're going to need to pick up a bunch of Legion splinters. But it's very doable, and you also don't need the expensive splinters. You don't need the Maraketh emblems, you don't need the Templar emblems. You can simply do it with the other 3, and you can also do it in rotations with other players. Anyways, that's the 11 hardest challenges there. I'm going to leave the video at this point. If you've got any comments or questions, fire away below. Otherwise, I've recently set up a streaming account on Twitch, twitch.tv/SirGog. So you can have a look for me there. I'm there occasionally. I don't have a regular schedule, but I'm usually there of Australian time zone evenings, probably about 4 times a week on average. And otherwise, if you found this video useful, you can subscribe if you want to see more like it in your YouTube feed. You can thumbs up if you think other people should find this easier to find, and thumbs down if you think it was a terrible video that should be harder to find on YouTube. Anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Comments or questions, as always, below.